They blow up Building 7. They do JFK. They do Libya. They do Afghanistan for 20 years. I mean, there isn't a thing they haven't lied to you about. They did COVID. So why wouldn't they? You think that's beyond the pale that they would rig an election in the United States?
All right, let's do another type of segment that many have requested, which I don't know if the audience is interested in. I'm going to review with you what seems to me something going very wrong with the comedian, political analyst Jimmy Doré. I'm going to play a clip for you here of Jimmy Doré from the Jimmy Dore Show, where he seems to be expressing that he has wholesale accepted a handful or more major conspiracy theories that have been floated over the last many years. And my concern with this is I'm going to play a clip of Jimmy Doré and a clip of Chris Hedges in a moment, praising Doré. I don't recognize the left here. So this is not about me gatekeeping and saying, listen, if Jimmy calls himself left, I'm not the person who's going to come in and say, no. But similarly to what we saw with Tulsi Gabbard, who now is speaking at Mar-a-Lago and she's speaking at CPAC and she would like to be Trump's VP, I don't recognize leftism anywhere there. And there were people in 2016 saying Tulsi Gabbard is the only real leftist here, totally bamboozled, snowed by her. There were people writing to me saying, David, you've jumped the shark. It's Jimmy Doré who really represents the left. I just don't see the left here. And I admit, I haven't seen any of Jimmy's clips for a while now. I didn't realize it had gotten this bad. Let me set this up for you. In this 54-second clip, Jimmy guesses that the 2024 election will be rigged for Joe Biden, which Trumpian narrative, of course. Ken Block and other actual experts have looked at 2020. There was no rigging. There was no substantive fraud, more than a few dozen votes that many of them seem to have accidentally been, someone who voted absentee and then died and their vote was counted, or a junior who voted and it was counted as senior, even though senior was dead. Nothing substantive. And in saying that 2024 will be rigged, Jimmy Doré goes, they blew up Building 7 and they did JFK, they did Libya, they did Afghanistan, and they did COVID. This is the left now? This is a scary left. Take a look at this.
So it's going to be Biden or Trump. It looks like it's going to be Trump, but
not necessarily.
I think they're going to probably rig it. That's my guess.
They who?
Why wouldn't they? Of course they. Why wouldn't they? They blow up Building 7. They do JFK. They do Libya. They do
what? What?
Afghanistan for 20 years. I mean, there isn't a thing they haven't lied to you about. They did COVID.
They did COVID?
So why wouldn't they? You think that's beyond the pale that they would rig an election in the United States? So I think they'll do anything, including turning us into a transparent banana republic, which is what they've done in the prosecution of Donald Trump, Russiagate, for the whole thing. And so they're going to get their wars, and they got them. And Donald Trump was a speed bump in them getting their wars.
This is extraordinarily serious. Serious brainworms. I don't know whether to call them MAGA brainworms, but there's no leftism in there. There's maybe alluding to some faux populist rhetoric about how they are doing all of these things that are bad for the average person. Maybe, like being super charitable. I don't see any leftism left there. What I see there is conspiracy brain. And then they always love to say, well, you're using the word conspiracy simply as a pejorative. Well, in one sentence, you're wrapping in that the people who did Building 7 and did COVID and did Libya and did JFK are going to do the election theft so that Joe Biden, who, by the way, won by 7 million votes in 2020, one of the most scrutinized elections in history, and still it's sort of like the Biden crimes. 40 years of a public career scrutinized, and they've got nothing. Years now of scrutinizing the 2020 election, they've got nothing. Other than the number of sandwiches in a van didn't match the number of poll workers Give me a break. And I'm supposed to recognize that this is leftism. So listen, if at this point we all acknowledge there is nothing left about Jimmy Dore, and this is the same as Tulsi Gabbard or Dave Rubin or whoever, then fine. It's just another right-wing bomb thrower. But if there are still people who recognize leftism in this kind of content, I want to hear from you. What left-wing principles are we seeing here? I can enumerate my left-wing principles, and they relate to economic justice and how taxation should be done and what education policy should be, and a respect and understanding for empiricism, while understanding that also when you mix the interests of large corporations with empiricism, you get something like big pharma, which has done lots of good and also has to be very closely regulated because sometimes it does bad, right? I can put together a package that's very clearly, there's no place other than the left on which my ideology can exist. I don't see leftism here. Now, just one other clip, and this is kind of a bummer too. Here's Chris Hedges, another individual who is there still leftism here? Or is it, a lot of this what I would end up actually calling this is contrarian anarcho-libertarianism. That's kind of what this is. Here's Chris Hedges placing Jimmy Dore alongside comedians like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, as if Jimmy now, forget about the political analysis. The political analysis is actually part of he's one of the top comedians of all time with this sort of socio-political commentary. I don't know what the hell's happened to Chris Hedges either. It's sad.
Joining me to discuss the transformation of comedy from an art form rooted in the counterculture to one that has largely become a megaphone for power is Lee Camp, who, like the comics of another era, Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, Mort Stahl, Bill Hicks, and George Carlin, and a handful of his contemporaries, including Jimmy Dore, is not afraid to use his razor-sharp wit.
It's very difficult for me. Oh, there might be two more words here.
Against our real enemies.
They use their razor-sharp wit against our real enemies. When I see Richard Pryor and George Carlin, it doesn't strike me that Jimmy Dore is part of that, and I guess Chris Hedges thinks it is. So listen, this seems like a perverted sort of, you might call this the post-left or the ex-left. I don't know. I want to hear from you. If I am misunderstanding how this is the modern left wing of American politics and American political critique, if I am making the mistake and simply not seeing this for the true leftism that it is, and it is I who have gone astray, I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me exactly what are the left-wing principles here that are being espoused. The new website is live. We finally made it over the finish line. Joinpacman.com. Check out the beautiful new website. I'm so glad. We're still tweaking a few little things, but it's a beautiful website. It looks beautiful. We'll take a quick break. It is a packed show today. Today's sponsor, Ground News, is an app and website that quickly shows you how news is being covered across the political spectrum, adding context and making it easy to understand the polarizing events like the election season that we're in. If you're watching this on YouTube, Donald Trump and Joe Biden secured their party's nominations for a historic presidential rematch. So I'll be looking at Ground News's election page for minute-to-minute updates on the issues that matter most and the blind spots in the left and right's election coverage. So for example, check out the breakdown on why the GOP's Biden impeachment appears to be falling apart. Ground News found more than 20 articles published on this, but I can see it's a near total blind spot for people only following right-leaning news. I wonder why. And looking over here, many of these articles come from reliable sources with each giving me some new detail, and reading their summary of this from each political viewpoint really just gets me up to speed in seconds on any issue. So make separating fact from noise easier this election by going to ground.news/Pacman. My viewers get 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan, making it just $5 a month. The link is down below.